What happens when two successful entrepreneurs get together for a drink? They talk shop, of course. So grab your favorite cocktail and sit alongside Scott DeLong and Vince Moiso, two seasoned business leaders that have driven their own companies to success, as they share from their experience and dive deep into the secret sauce that can turn a company around. The CEO Podcast starts now.
Welcome back to the CEO Podcast. I'm here with Vince Moiso, and we are in part 2 of Communication Junction. What's your function? Hope you enjoy it. Sit back, grab a drink, and listen to the show.
I think, what I see less and less now because we're so focused on it as a business. But what I have seen in the past, what I see with other businesses is that people use email completely out of control to yell at each other and argue back and forth. And then,
but doesn't the little emoji that I put on there fix that?
Well, remember, so I'm going to go back to something that you said, and it was just a beautiful way to say it, is what you say, the meaning and understanding of it is what that person heard, not what you said.
That's right.
So same goes for email. Whatever you wrote is only interpreted and understood by the reader, not the writer.
And almost always more negative than you intended. For sure. Almost always. Now, if I'm doing all caps, I'm mad, right? But in any other thing, that written language just looks, I'm going to interpret it negative. That's my first reaction, is the negative one.
Yeah.
He meant this. And
I take the less is more approach with email, because here's the reality. So statistically speaking, most people are going to read the first 2 lines of an email and they're going to move on. They're just not going to read it. So, the days of doing these long emails of telling people how you feel and, just writing a book around something, it's done. I mean, people just aren't going to spend that time. Do you know what you want to hear a funny statistic? Do you know what the attention span of a human being is?
No.
The average attention span of a human being. Take a guess.
I'm going to say probably less than 30 seconds.
7 seconds.
Wow.
Is the average attention span of a human being.
I've got kids that have less than that.
Listen,
just saying.
Well, I'll say this. You know what the attention span of a goldfish is?
No.
It's 10 seconds.
Goldfish is better.
Yeah. So, But because of technology, we have technology to thank for that. So, we're
goldfish don't text.
Being on our phones and texting, things move across our brain at an incredible speed, which has really made email harder and harder, more difficult as a form of communication. So I think as a best practice, you've really got to utilize it for informational purposes. Example. So I've entered an order, right? Uh-huh. And there's some detail about that order that I need to pass on to the team. Great. Perfect use. You don't need to call anybody for that. Right. You put that in an email, everything's in writing, the team gets it. But let me talk about some email etiquette really quick, because this is important. So this is what happens. 10 people are on the email. Let's just say 5 of them are in the to section, 5 in the CC. Mm-hmm. And then it's not addressed to anybody. And there's just a bunch of information. And then there's a question at the end. Is this the correct price? Question mark. Well,
who answers that?
Who's supposed to answer
That's
that?
Right.
So that is one of the most common mistakes that happen, is that we put everybody on the email and we don't address it to anybody. And then we get upset because nobody responds.
Because the other person was going to.
For sure.
Yeah.
I can tell you, if I receive an email like that, I do not respond. I'm going to assume that everyone else responded.
So what's your rule? What rule do you use? When
So
multiple people on an email, how do you?
The rule is I break that email up. So I may put team, and I give the information that is just FYI for the team. Okay. And then if there's a question or an action item as a result of that information, I put Scott, I have a question for you. Yeah. Is that price accurate? Bill, I have an action item for you. I need you to take this sales order and make sure that it gets in the system for production. Right? So that's, to me, that's the best way you could possibly do it. And then it's easy to read. So now my information is 2 or 3 sentences. Okay. And then I've got it addressed to the 2 people that have either a question to answer or an action item.
So I would take that a step further. My rule is this: if you're on the to line, you respond. If you're on the CC line, you don't. So I would put Absolutely. Bill and Scott, the people that you want the response to, because you put their thing, they would be in the to.
That's correct.
Anyone that's in the CC, it's just for your information.
FYI only.
And here's how I use BCC. I don't.
Yeah.
It is subversive. It is the worst thing that you can do is
well, it's CYA.
Oh, it's horrible. Yeah. You want to CYA? Let people know that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
You are being subversive if you're blind copying people. So I think it shouldn't be there. I can't imagine, and there may be a scenario that there's a reason that someone's on there at some point, but I can't imagine that.
The only time I use BCC is I might give you a referral, for example, and I do an email introduction, right? Or you do the same to me. Let's just use me as the example. You give me a referral, you do an email introduction, and then I respond and I say, Scott, moving you to BCC now. Right. So that the pursuant emails, when we hit reply all, you're no longer on there. Right. And you don't have to, that's the only time I use BCC. The rest of the time I couldn't agree with you more is there's just no place for it, because just be transparent, which we talked about last time about, what your intentions are and who's going to be on that email. So you were ahead of me on that. Let's talk about a couple of other things. Yep. It is important that whoever you put in that to section is exactly who you're sending that email to, and if there's action items or anything else. That's who goes in the to section. CC is FYI, and we established that really quickly because it was being misused.
Sure.
And we established it. Say, hey, here's the etiquette across all people, all departments. If you are CC'd, you are not expected to do any action in this email or respond to it. It's FYI only.
I want you to read it so you're aware, but you have no responsibility.
And in fact, I ask to be CC'd on as much as relevant that I can be copied on, because I like to read it. And one of the reasons I do that, Scott, is so that when we have the meeting, I am going to get the phone call. And when we have the meeting the next day, I don't want to spend 20 minutes getting the background on it.
Yeah.
If I've gone through and read the emails that I'm CC'd on, I have all the background. Now I can jump into the meeting and we can look for a solution. And so I think CC is really important. I believe it's overused and underused at the same time, or misused is probably the best way to describe it. Now, something else that I want to add to that email etiquette discussion, I gave the example of how to do it right, which is give the information, 2 or 3 sentences. Scott, I have this question for you. Bill, I have this action item for you. This is the other thing that is always left out. Bill, Scott, it's not urgent. If you can get back to me by Friday, that would be great. So the problem is we never put the timing we need on delivery for either a question or an action item. Now, what happens, Scott? So I'll just ask you your opinion and your feeling on it. When you receive an email and it's unclear when they want an answer from you.
So I teach this in a management course as well. And it is before we leave any meeting, and an email can be a meeting, right? Any meeting, here's what we need, from who, by when.
Yeah.
Really simple, right? When I was a young manager, and I got this aggressive personality, right? So I'm going to call it assertive, but people call it aggressive. Sometimes they call my confidence arrogance. Anyway, from my point of view, it's an aggressive personality.
Sure.
Let's go with that.
How about direct?
Direct. I'm just direct. So I avoided giving people deadlines because I thought that made me look like a jerk.
Yeah.
It's just the opposite. It gives them the opportunity to push back and say, hey, listen, you want this by Friday, but I can't get it till Tuesday.
There you go.
And they'll tell me that right then. Or if they've accepted it, then Friday is the deadline.
Yeah.
And that helps them. I mean, think back when you were in school. When you had a paper due on Monday morning, when did you write it?
Sunday night.
Sometimes
Monday morning.
Yeah. So deadlines help me get my stuff done too.
Yeah.
Why, if it helps me, why wouldn't it help the other people get their stuff done too?
I said that very softly.
Yeah, I know. Your professors aren't listening.
I'm hoping nobody heard me.
Well, but that's just human nature. So when I grew up a little bit and I realized that it is really helping other people to give them deadlines rather than making me look like I'm pushing them for something.
Yeah. So
because I do give them an opportunity to push back and say,
of course,
I can't do it by then. You got, okay. Or, hey, you got these 12 other things you want me to do by Friday. Which one should fall off?
One's a priority?
Yeah,
so you're ahead of me, way ahead of me as usual. So that's super important, Scott. And you bring up a couple of different points there. Essentially what you're saying is you're creating agreement and you can reset on the agreement. It's okay, right? That's absolutely okay to do. And you're establishing priority. Right. So when I come back and say, Scott, I've got these 12 things that I have to do, and now you want this by Friday. Well, the opportunity cost is I've got to push your priorities down. Yeah. Is that okay?
And then you leave it up to me to make that decision.
Yeah. Can you tell me what are the top 3 or 4 of these that you want done by Friday? The rest I'm going to have to push out till Tuesday. But it creates agreement, and most importantly, it creates clarity. And what I found out through all of this is people want clear direction. Right. They want good communication, which means they have a full understanding of their job, their role, their responsibility, and they want to get it done. They want to get results.
I don't know anyone that wants to do a bad job.
No,
I've never hired anyone that wants to do a bad job.
I don't know either.
Unless I've screwed them somehow and they're trying to get even with me. Everyone wants to do a good job.
Yeah. Right? But boy, I spent half of my career not being a great communicator, and in my opinion, not a great leader as a result, because I think communication is critical to being a good leader. And I believe, as you said earlier, the only direction I should point the finger is inward. Yeah. Because if somebody's not understanding or not clear on a project or direction or whatever that might be, I only need to look at myself and how I communicated. So I often reset on that. Now it's interesting because I've been in scenarios, and I would consider myself today a very good communicator. I would also consider myself a very good writer. And I follow my own coaching on email etiquette. I do everything that I'm telling you guys are the best practices. I do all of that. And I still make mistakes.
Sure.
And I'll tell you, it's like, I'll send an email that I think is fine, and someone will come back and say, wow, that was a pretty harsh email. And I'm thinking to myself, what are you talking about? And I go back and I read the email and I go, wow, that was a pretty harsh email, you know, because I think sometimes, and this is what brings me to this point, part of email etiquette is slow down enough to look at what you're writing, right? Because you might think that you put something that's very clear. You might think that it was just normal, clear cut, sure, even keel, whatever the direction is, but slow down enough, reread it. Also, I still continue to get blown away at how many mistakes. Like it looks, especially if you're typing an email from your phone, which I really don't recommend. Right. And I'm gonna talk about some email habits as well in a second. But especially if you're sending an email from your phone, check the spelling, please. I don't know, sometimes how many times I get an incoherent email, and that's the most frustrating, especially if it's external. Especially if that goes to a customer, goes to a vendor, goes to, a key relationship. And I think, wow, we're not putting our best foot forward at that point. So you got to slow down just enough to reread what you're writing.
So there's 2 things that I want to respond to in there. The first one is that slow down. What I say is just don't hit send. Finish an email and don't hit send. Actually, someone brought a technique to me. They said, take the people out of the to line as you're typing it. Because email is a great way to, or typing is a great way to get some frustrations out, right?
Yeah.
Type it out, write it out, do all that.
So you're not inadvertently sending the email
but you take,
that you don't want to send.
You take the names out of the sending line first, right? That way you can't send it. And then you've got to go think back and actually put them in. I do want to send this. Yes, I checked it. I've done all that. The other thing that I found is because my typing can be a little sloppy as well, right? And then autocorrect does what it does.
Yeah.
There's a software program called Grammarly that I use now that
it's good.
Shows me. What, you sure you wanted to say this?
Yeah.
You want to put a preposition at the end of a sentence, those kind of things. And your writing matters.
Yeah.
It's a reflection of who you are.
Yeah.
It's just like the first time you go to meet somebody, the clothing you wear matters.
Yeah.
So your writing is that same thing. So I use Grammarly now, and I do not hit send until later.
Well, you said something interesting is you said, typing can be a great way to relieve frustration. Mm-hmm. And I've done that. I have a rule. Here's another email rule. Don't send an email for 24 hours. Yeah. You got to sleep on it. And, I've had many of emails that I've written out because I got to just get it off my chest to somebody, whatever. And I sleep on it and that email gets deleted. Every time. I can't give you one instance that I've ever woke up the next morning and said, oh, I'm sending that email.
Oh, that was a good idea.
Yeah. Anything that I wrote in that email, if I truly feel that way, it needs to be done face to face.
Well, so that's part of this communication hierarchy. So my rule on this communication hierarchy: in person, face to face, Zoom, whatever, video, phone, email. Below that, Slack and text and all that, because you can't get as much out.
Right.
Below that, smoke signals, carrier pigeons, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I still use some of that.
Yeah. And then there's only one thing that's even below that: assuming.
Yeah.
I assume I know what you meant.
Right.
Right. Rather than clarify.
Yeah.
So what I say with this communication hierarchy going from face to face up, the more potential for conflict, and conflict is just a difference of opinion. It's a different way of looking at the world. Conflict doesn't have to mean fight. It can mean I see things differently than you. The more potential for that, the higher up that communication hierarchy you've got to go. If it is something that's going to be a fight, let's do it face to face, because like you said, it's really hard to really be pissed at somebody face to face.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe when we were 20 and we wanted to hit somebody, that's a little different.
You're not going to say the things that you wrote in that email to somebody to their face. You're just not. I mean, it's lunacy to even send those type of emails. So you reminded me of just another great piece of etiquette. Just pick up the phone. Mm-hmm. I think, what happens as email chains grow and grow, there becomes this banter back and forth where it's like, hey, can you get me that? Hey, can you get me this? Okay, well, you didn't do this, and then we need to do that. Okay, at that point, you got to pick up the phone.
Right.
You just have to. Well, and email isn't always happening in real time. So again, this whole concept around assuming, I think we also assume that everybody's just sitting in front of their computer all day. But reality is they're not. So if you're in customer service, sometimes you might be on the phone. Sometimes you're getting up, you're using the restroom, you're eating, whatever it is you're doing, but you're not in front of your email all day. So the problem is that things aren't happening in real time. And once you've reached that point, so this is what I teach my whole entire team. Once you've reached that point where that email is no longer informational, we got to stop that email chain.
Yeah.
Stop it in its tracks. Pick up the phone, if it's 3 people, 4 people, whatever it is, get on a video call, and we use Teams internally. And so get on Teams and just get it taken care of, because it ends up being like a 5-minute call.
Yeah.
So instead of 20 emails back and forth with not everybody understanding what's going on, it's all solved in a 5-minute phone call.
Or if we're in the same office, pandemic's over, we're backing up, just get up and walk down the hall and say hello.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But hey, I got this thing I don't quite understand, where we got a difference of opinion going on here. What do you think? They tell you, oh, I didn't know that's what you meant.
But
How often do you hear that?
But listen, though, this is really a hot topic. I mean, this is more important than ever now, because most businesses are going to allow more and more employees to work remote. Yeah. I'm one of those businesses. So we've really extended the flexibility to work remote within our business if you're in a position that lends itself to being remote. Sure. And because of that, it does require a strict following of this etiquette. Otherwise, there's a major communication breakdown within our system, and that doesn't work for us. Now, we've created this culture of accountability on top of it. So what we've done is anybody can call out anybody and there's no feelings hurt around it. So we make it clear to everybody when we do our monthly team meetings, our town hall style meetings, is we go over communication every single time, as I mentioned earlier. And we tell everybody, hold each other accountable to what you expect. So oftentimes in a sales meeting that I have every Monday, just as an example, I have certain people in key positions and key roles that will come on and explain to the team how they prefer to be communicated to. Hey, by the way, guys, I'm not in front of my computer all day. So you're probably finding out that my response to emails is slow. So the best way to get in touch with me is text or phone call or whatever. So whatever the preferences of that person, we allow them to come on and say, this is how I prefer to be communicated to. It's a big deal. It's made a big difference.
Yeah, I'd say so. We're going to talk about accountability in a future podcast because I think that's another great topic.
Totally.
And creating a culture of accountability. But to kind of wrap up on this communication process is that I think what I found with all the organizations that I've worked with is that we assume we communicate well, and I can tell you right now we don't. I was just talking with the CEO the other day, and he has no clue that he is being misunderstood from his folks.
Sure.
One, because sometimes CEOs are hard to approach to tell them, they're wrong or whatever, because they got this presence and all that. And so people stay quiet. And boy, it's the worst. I mean, this guy doesn't want that.
No.
Right? He's got this, big barrel chest and this intimidating presence and all that.
Yeah.
But the dude wants to be told the truth.
Yeah.
He does. So communication gets back into all of that, is to be able to learn how to speak truth to power. And I think that's another good topic we can do, speaking truth to power. So we'll do that on a future one as well, because that is a really difficult thing to do. And it is something that power wants, whether their face shows they want it or not, they need to hear it.
Yeah, I'll tell you, you bring up a lot of things for me there. And, I keep sharing some of my leadership or lack thereof and poor communication in my previous business. And I didn't know, you don't know. It's like, it's a complete blind spot is what happens. So I can completely relate to that. Now, the way that I've changed that, because I've not only embraced, but I have a deep understanding that people look at me. I'm the president of the business, right? Mm-hmm. So not everybody is comfortable to just approach me, right? Mm-hmm. And not everybody is comfortable in just sharing whatever it is that they want to share either. So even if I call a meeting with them or anything, I'm constantly reminding the team, guys, please CC me. Please share with me. I'm here to help. I'm here to support. My job is to support you, and I want to support at the highest level. And I can only do that if you're providing the information to me and if you're communicating with me. And I think you have to have those reminders as a leader. You have to give those reminders, and don't be shy about it. So I'm constantly doing it. I feel sometimes like a broken record, and I don't care, because I need to give that reminder out.
That's great. So let's wrap this one up. I think this is a pretty good place to stop this, because we've got like 3 or 4 other topics that we can go for future.
I wanted to give one habit, if that's okay. I just wanted to share a habit. I said that I would earlier, and so I want to follow through on that promise.
Deliver on the promise. Okay, got it.
I want to deliver on that promise.
All right.
So there is one habit that I want to share, and we talked about a lot of habits and email etiquette, and one that I have found that has been incredibly helpful for me, being the president of the organization. So what's important when I'm in the office, I need to focus on everything that's going on in the office, and I have those meetings. What's important to me is I'm not on email when I'm in a meeting. Okay, that's one habit. I'm not sitting there doing email, and I'm not checking my phone. I'm not checking text. I'm 100% focused in that meeting.
Being present.
100% of the time I'm present.
Yeah.
And that's a must habit. Secondarily, when you're face to face with somebody and you have that physical presence in the office, you need to spend that time working on the business. And part of working on the business is creating those relationships within the business. And so I'm very, very focused on that, which means I'm not checking email.
Yeah.
So here's what's funny is I don't know any business that I've coached for. The leaders typically are not communicating what their schedules look like and when they're checking emails and when they can respond. So emails go to the leader in what I'd call the ether, and go unresponded for days and days and days. So what I do as a habit, I've created this, and this is something that I learned after I read the 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. And so I start my day and I do a quick check of emails, and I'm really only looking at the top hot priorities, like a response from the day before. It needs a quick response, is super hot. That might only be like 3 emails in the morning. And so I'll quickly respond to those. And then I'm not likely at all throughout the day to check email. If I have a window in my calendar, I may check a few emails because I know there's some answers that are looming out there that people need. But again, I'm only focused on whatever priority emails those might be. Beyond that, I block out in the evenings about an hour to 2 hours of pure email. And my email etiquette and communication has gone through the roof of how good it is because I focus on email. What most people do is they go to email, then they get a phone call and they get interrupted.
Sure.
And then they go back to an email and then someone walks in their office and they're disrupted. Then they go back to an email. And if you're at home, even worse, right? Dogs coming in, dogs barking, somebody coming to the door. There's all kinds of interruptions that can cause you to make a lot of mistakes because you're trying to multitask with a bunch of different things. Now, I get that if you're in customer service, if you're in other things, okay, great. You got to do email all day, right? I'm talking specifically about the leadership of a business. And the leadership of a business does not need to be doing email all day. Your focus should be on the business. You should be in meetings. You should be doing whatever's most important for you to be doing to work on the business and not focusing on email. And so I found my productivity overall has gone through the roof because I'm not letting email control my day.
So there's a couple things in there. The first one is that it kind of proves our point that email is a very inefficient tool if you need
no question
fast stuff, right?
Yeah.
The second part is that hopefully, as the leader of a business working on a business instead of in a business, that old cliche, that there is someone else that's there to handle the crises.
Yeah.
How many crises do you need to fix?
Hopefully none.
All right. Bankers and lawyers, that's about it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the rest of it, there's people that should be doing the crisis portion.
Agree.
Empowered to do that, know how to do it probably better than you do.
If you've delegated and empowered, it's there.
Yeah. So don't send emails to Vince if you need someone to make coffee, right? He's probably not going to get till late tonight.
Coffee. I make terrible coffee.
Maybe not till the night before or the night after, that sort of thing. So it's great. I like this. This was good. This is one of my favorite topics, as Vince mentioned, and we can go days on communication. And again, we talk about communication, and most people say, "Yeah, we do that really well." Bullshit. We don't.
And by the way, communication is a topic that we go deep on. We spend weeks and months teaching and coaching on communication. So there's a lot more to it. If you want more information, please get in touch with us. Both Scott and I coach on communication and email etiquette at a much, much deeper level. And so if there's any interest in additional information, please reach out.
Thanks for tuning in. This is a CEO podcast. Every week, we're going to be talking about a topic that just interests us. This is fun, right? We have a good time doing this, talking about how we operate businesses and what works and what doesn't work for us. If you like what you hear, great, let us know. If you didn't like anything that you heard, if you think that there's something different about or crazy, whatever, let us know and we can respond. We can respond to that as well. So want to hear difference of opinion. So please let us know. So what do you got here?
Well, this is Artifacts. So it's from the local brewery here in San Clemente. Artifacts is one of my absolute favorites. And the one we're drinking tonight is called Orange You Different. It's an IPA. Obviously with a little bit of citrus hit to it. You can barely taste the citrus. In fact, you don't. It's about as smooth an IPA that I've had. It's in my top 5 favorites. I get this the most often. There's a couple of other IPAs that we'll be drinking during another podcast from Artifacts. Artifacts is it's my favorite local brewery for sure, hands down. So if we were going to pick of the several breweries that are here in San Clemente, and you said, hey, where do you want to go, Vince? I'm going to say, let's go to Artifacts. Now, that being said, it's because I'm an IPA guy. Mm-hmm. So admittedly, and they have 3 super, super solid IPAs, and they have a double IPA that is also excellent. But this Orange You Different, one of my favorites for sure.
So we'll be talking about others as well. In fact, I went to Left Coast Breweries and I met the brewmaster. Happened to be the son-in-law of one of my friends. So we went down there and drank a little bit, and they had a citrus one too. And I said, well, what's that like? And this guy's a serious brewmaster.
Yeah.
He wouldn't let me drink it. Right? He said, it's good. I said, kind of wimpy. He goes, no, it's good. But he poured me over the OC IPA, which is really good too.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
We'll be talking about them as well. And that's Left Coast Brewery, also in San Clemente.
Yeah.
We also have here Lost Winds.
Yeah.
And even Pizza Port is just down the street. So
and they brew here. So Pizza Port, which is also in San Diego and other places, but they brew the beer here in San Clemente.
So it might be all summer we're not getting out of town because we'll be drinking local beer.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for joining us for the CEO Podcast. To learn more about Scott and Vince, please visit theceopodcast.net and check out the calendar to tune in for our next episode. While on this site, you can also listen to past episodes, access additional content created for our listeners, and if you would like to dive deeper into any topic, there is an option to schedule some time with Scott or Vince. Thanks for listening.